Please help me welcome our final speaker for today, the delightful Jean Eckhoff. Jean is the Training and Organizational Development Manager at Conversion Logix, and we are so pleased to have her with us today. Jean, the session is all yours.
Oh, thank you, Casey. And I love the word delightful. That's just such a nice word to end the day. I hope you all are having a great time and that you learned a lot. So I am excited to be here, and I'd like to start with a story. So back in 2000, a man got on a plane to go propose to his longtime girlfriend. Suddenly, a storm comes up, the plane crashes, and the man wakes up on a deserted island. He looks around and he says, now what? Where am I? Oh my gosh, what do I do? So give me a thumbs up or a reaction in the chat who has seen this movie, who knows what it is. So you can write it in the chat or you can give me a thumbs up and let me know. Yes, everybody, it is the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks. But even if you haven't seen this classic movie, you can imagine the thoughts running through his head as he sat there thinking, I don't even know what to do or where to start. So why am I talking about this movie? Because it is very similar to a situation that I found myself in. But first, to me, it's a very play volleyball. To me, it's a very memorable story because it just shows somebody who was super overwhelmed. He had a simple plan, and he not only stayed alive, but he thrived and made a whole new future for himself. So, what I'd like to share is my story where I literally felt just like Tom Hanks. Yeah, that's a pretty funny face. But when I started at Conversion Logix, I was so excited because I got the opportunity to stand up a learning program all by myself. And I thought, yay, no micromanaging. I can be as creative as I want to. This is just going to be so awesome. So it was great, and I was excited until I opened my laptop my very first day on the job, opened my laptop, logged in, and thought, now what? Now I don't even know what to do. There wasn't even an onboarding program. So, what I'd like to know is who has ever felt that way at a job where you were, or put it in the chat, where you had a project or you started a new job and it was a brand new position and you felt so overwhelmed you didn't even know where to start. So, either give me a thumbs up. Yeah, I love all the thumbs up. Oh, Constant, she's feel like this now. Not sure if Constant is a guy or girl, so I don't want to offend. Feel like this now, which is why I signed up. And honestly, I thought it was pretty cool that I got asked to do this webinar because I thought if I felt this way, I bet you there's other people that are put in this situation and they feel the same way. And I'd kind of like to share some ideas. So I would like to share my story of how I went overwhelmed to building something that I am actually really super proud of today. I just passed my 2-year anniversary and here at Conversion Logic. So when we get to the end, I can show you how much I've created just by myself. So again, I was sitting in front of, well, standing in front of my laptop that first day, and I am thinking to myself, how do I start? What is the first thing that I need to do? So as I take you on my journey, I'd like to share my whole plan and how I use Tom Hanks' plan to go from feeling overwhelmed to what I built. So my very first move is I learned it from him. So what was the biggest thing that Tom Hanks did? Who knows who this is? Oh, Amber, she said she switched industries. So you can write in the chat, who is this in the castle? Exactly. Everybody knows Wilson. Tom Hanks knew he needed somebody to talk to so that he wouldn't go crazy. I knew that I cannot stand this thing up, and thank God that there is AI to help us brainstorm and be a little bit more or a lot more productive in our job as just one person. So I wanted to create a Wilson, but I thought my husband would not like a bloody volleyball sitting on my desk. So I thought, okay, that's kind of out. And then I thought, well, I can't even really use the word Wilson or the name Wilson because that's my cat. And we already have conversations, but they're only meows. So I decided to name my GPT, the best name in the world that I have ever heard of in my life, Thaddeus Quimby. And then I asked Quimby to send me a picture of himself, and this is who he is. So, who wouldn't mind talking to this guy all day long? So he is the equivalent of Wilson. He's the one I talk to if I thank you for the hearts and the laughing. He's the one that I talk to if I need brainstorm ideas, if I need to analyze something just to get started. So I thought, all right, well, I'm going to ask him to at least help me put together a plan for how I can build this whole learning situation at Conversion Logix. And bless his heart, Quimby came back with 4 pages and it looked like this. And I thought, oh, Quimby, bless your heart, but that is still like so overwhelming. Now I feel even worse than ever. And I decided I am going to go back to simplicity and think about what Tom Hanks did to survive on his island. And he did really three major things. And please feel free to put your comments in the chat about what I am talking about. So, the first thing that Tom Hanks did in that movie Castaway is he got comfortable. He literally just put a shade over his head so that he wouldn't burn his head. And then he found tools and then he built stuff. I mean, that's how simple it was. But let me tell you how I use that in my context. So, getting comfortable, I knew that I needed to get my learners at Conversion Logix comfortable with whatever learning I was going to give them. And two, I needed to put together a toolbox, just like Tom Hanks did. And three, I needed to build stuff. And those are the assets to put into my learning program. So, as we go through today, I would love for you to take at least one or two, or if you're an overachiever like me, 3 to 4 tips that you can use either if you are starting a learning program all by yourself, or you've already got a learning program and you just want some ideas about how I can freshen it up, or are there different tools out there, or what are other people doing? So, I'd love for you to do that. But I would really love, I know you put your names in there and where you were from, but I would really love for you to put in the chat, like, who are you? Are you a new person in a job? Are you building a learning program from scratch? Do you already have a learning program? Are you super experienced or are you brand new? Please put it in the chat because I'd love to know who you are. And everybody else would love to know who you are too. So I'll wait a minute while you guys start typing. Okay, 100% virtual. Yes, we are fully remote here at Conversion Logic, so everything I do is virtual. Experienced language instructor, thank you for sharing. And please, others, I would really love to hear. Training specialist, looking for my next opportunity. Good job, good job. Is anybody here? I know Constance said that they were brand new and like me, starting a new learning program, working for a startup, creating a relatively new to this background in building some training. That's kind of how I started my whole career. Training manager, L&D, looking for a startup. Great. When you're office manager, I'm trying to read really fast, so if I miss you, please don't feel offended. 30 years in L&D, Sarah, great. I hope you're here for maybe a few ideas or just to connect with people in this in the ELB thing. So homegrown ID, trying to learn more tools of the trade. And that's what we're going to do today. So I'll have a lot of questions that I'd love for you to put in the chat so that you can share your ideas and your experience. I may look like I know everything, but actually, unfortunately, I don't. I think we learn a lot from our peers. So before we get started today, about the first thing, getting comfortable, I would love for you to tell me what is the difference between a learning culture and a learning program? Can you please put that in the chat and share with each other? What is the difference between a learning culture and a learning program? Oh, Matt, L&D manager, building a new department from scratch. Yeah, that was me. But again, in the chat, difference between learning culture and program. Culture is the fabric of the organization. That's a great answer. I'm going to give you a minute to type in. This is going to be a super interactive webinar, so not me just showing up and talking. So who else wants to share the difference between a culture and a learning program? Behavior, habit versus a targeted learning plan, who we are, our why. The learning program is more specific, I feel. Program is designed for a specific purpose. Culture is not learned. Okay. Culture is kind of learned, well, not learned formally, but kind of by osmosis. Great. Well, as I was thinking about building this learning program, I decided to focus on three things because we all love the number three. It's the easiest thing to remember. But as I started thinking about what do I want my learners to feel, how do I want them to behave, I thought of three things. I wanted my learning culture to be delightful. Oh, there's that delightful word again, relevant and social. And what do I mean about that? Well, delightful is I want them to feel excited about what they're learning, and I want them to volunteer to learn, not it. I don't want it to be a mandatory, like shoved down their throat. And relevant, whatever I was going to do, I needed it to be relevant to either their job or their personal growth. So, really, those are the only two relevant things. We don't have to do a whole lot of compliance training. There's a couple of things that they have to do. But again, it has to be relevant to their job. They have to see what's in it for me. And then social. Who belongs to let me see. Well, a learning culture creates the environment. Learning programs provide the tools. Yes, very good, very good. So learning culture is like the foundation, right? To have them want to use the tools. So social, who belongs to a club of some sort in your life? Either a grocery club where you get rewards or percentages off or two for ones, or a country club or a golf club or a knitting club. Oh, I see a little thumbs up. Exactly. And I thought, that is really what drives people to join something is their peers find some club and they get rewarded. So what I thought about is I'm going to build a social kind of aspect, a peer learning aspect to my learning culture. And what I came up with is kind of based on a game that I play, and I'm sure everybody does, where you go up in levels. So I decided to call it the Rockstar Club. And I thought for every 2 hours of volunteer learning, you go up a level and you are called like an aspiring rock star, a local rock star, a regional rock star, all the way up to an iconic rock star. And not only do you get the label that you can use in Slack, you also get a cash reward. So we give out Amazon gift cards. I'm very fortunate that my boss is a lifelong learner. So he was good about rewarding people taking voluntary time to learn. So those were my three: delightful, relevant, and social. And that's the basis of whatever I do has to fit into that learning culture. So I'd like you to chat in again, and the more we share and the more we learn from each other. So just like we want our learners to participate, would love for you to participate. What three words already describe the learning culture that you have? Or if you haven't built one, what word or two or three words would you like your learning culture to be? So I'm going to stop talking and give you a moment to think. And please don't make me stand here and do crickets. Engaging in fun. I love that. What else? If you already have a learning program, what do you think your learners think of your learning program? That would be a good way to describe it. Immersive. What do you mean by that, Peter? Interactive, engaging, effective, supportive. Love that. Purposeful, yes. Relevant, purposeful. I love that. Any others? Operations environment, as much time in the real thing, Gemba, as possible. Ah, okay, okay, yeah. And not just do you want it to be engaging? Do you want it to be like a safe place to fail, a safe place to learn? So safety is also important when you're building a learning culture. Ah, thumbs up, great. So this brings me to my first takeaway for you is think about the culture that you're trying to build, or maybe you're trying to change. Maybe you have a learning program and nobody even wants to do it. Or you already have one, you love your culture, and how are you maintaining and promoting that? Learning, doing, respectful, personalizing. I love that. And just remember, if the learning is not enjoyable, it's not going to be sustainable. Like you can have the best, most fanciest lessons in the world, but if it's not enjoyable, nobody's going to do it. So before I go into my second part where Tom Hanks thinks about the tools, what three tools in your toolbox are an absolute must-have for you right now at this particular moment? Either three tools that you have that if everything else was taken away, you'd have to have these three tools. So can you go ahead and put it in the chat? E-learning authoring tool and an LMS. Yep. What else? Adobe Premiere. I've never used the Adobe platform. I hope you love it. I'm assuming the Premiere has all the things, all the things. Camtasia and Snagit, great. Training and systems access trackers and LMS, okay. Flare, I don't know what Flare is, Benita, can you tell us? And this is also a great peer learning moment because I don't even know what all is out there. Flip charts, digital and real, Excel, AI agent, and Wi-Fi. Beyond and Canva. Any others? SWOT sharing videos. Okay. I don't know what you mean by SWOT. Could you put that in there? And I don't know, Benita, what you meant by flare, because that would be helpful to everybody else. So while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about the three things that I was bound and determined to have in my toolbox. Remember when I said I opened up my laptop, that was my first day. Well, we didn't even have an LMS. And in fact, I told my boss I wasn't the only way I would accept the job offer is if I could buy an LMS because they had nothing. I said, I'm not going to do docs and PowerPoint slides for a learning program. So I had to purchase an LMS and then AI, because AI is, I don't even know how we did our jobs without AI. And then a catalog, like an open source catalog. So let me talk to you a little bit about the LMS. I did know that I wanted an LMS that I could grow into, not something that I needed it to be easy. I needed me to be able to learn it pretty quickly. Like I couldn't spend 8 months to, get really good at it. But I also didn't want it so easy that I would get bored after a while, and even my learners would get bored, that it didn't have enough things. So in my LMS, I know I wanted a video practice platform. I know I wanted an AI agent to help me build things. I know I wanted assets because I didn't want to be looking all over for assets. And I knew I wanted games, some sort of gamification tool and a quiz making tool, something like that. And the other thing that was super, super, super important to me, especially if you're just starting out and you haven't even purchased an LMS, is I needed a really great customer support. So when I was vetting all these different LMSs, I think the very first one that I called, the person said, "Oh, our LMS is so easy, you'll never have to call support." And I thought, yeah, that's not for me because I know I'm going to break something and I'm going to need support. So really, the deciding factor for me was the only vendor that actually said in the very, I think, first 2 minutes of our conversation is, I don't want to be your vendor. We want to be your partner, and we want to be able to support you to be as successful with this tool as you possibly can. And that's the vendor that I went with. And then AI, there are tons and tons and tons of AI tools out there. Some people said Canva, some people said Copilot. Yes, there are also other AI tools that you can use. The caveat that I would give is just because it's a brand new shiny tool doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fulfill a gap for you. And let me give you an example. I think virtual reality is like the coolest thing ever, but it doesn't really, it's not really going to support a gap or solve a gap in the work that we do. It's probably better for somebody that actually needs to know how to manipulate something or how to do something with their hands, versus we are more of a consulting firm and we don't really need to do mechanical things with our hands. So, 100%. Thank you for that. Yeah. So the AI tools that I have are like Canva has an AI part. My LMS has an AI micro builder, so it'll actually build the whole lesson out for you. I use Lumen 5, which is an AI video maker. There's tons of those out there. And of course, Quimby. I mean, those are basically my AI tools. And then catalog. Um, we had a catalog for leadership training, but it was only for leadership. And I thought, you're spending all this money every year for this catalog that only like 10% of your people can use. So I decided to go with Open Sesame that has tons of soft skills that I could put together. So instead of me reinventing the wheel on leadership skills or communication skills or whatever, I have an open source catalog that I can flip right in, that I can flip courses right into my LMS so that I can track, are they doing them? Are they not? And then we can build personal paths for our people. So I wanted to go into, I've mentioned some of the tools that I have been using. And on the left side is all the tools that are in my LMS, in my platform. I have the studio package. And then here are some of the tools that I use for that are AI or other tools. And one of the coolest tools that I use is YouTube videos. You really have to vet and really have to curate those a lot, but there is a lot of information out there that you could use that's a lot quicker and really short bites that you can turn into micro lessons for your people. So I thought I would go through and share with you how I use these tools. So the asset library in the studio package is pics and videos and cutout people, and those are for all types of lessons. This is the one that I use a lot. It's a micro builder, and you can actually create a template, put in either using AI, I want a lesson on this, or upload your own content from your company and say, build me a lesson on this. Like we had tons of content about our products. Nobody wants to read that. But you could upload it into a micro builder and it comes up with, you can make an analogy, you can make a story, you can make an avatar, you can make quizzes, you can make fun, you can pull in fun videos and then really make the PDF or the slide deck a lot more interactive. And then the AI toolkit is just different pieces, like you can remove backgrounds, you can look for a picture easily, create quiz questions. That's what I love about the arcade and the training arcade, especially the training arcade, is these are all sorts of games that are already preloaded. And honestly, all you have to do is put your questions in there. And they have an AI author that can help you put those questions together. So that even saves me a lot of time. And then Lectora Online I use for SCORM files, and then Rehearsal is the video platform. So I'm going to stop there and say who has a question or what can I clarify for you about these tools that I use? Oh, Jennifer, I'm sorry you're having issues. So, maybe, I don't know, Casey might be able to help you with that. And then the other tools that I use are these. Again, I use Quimby, and I don't use them just for brainstorming. I actually use them to help me craft business cases and emails to my boss because my boss is a high D on the disc, if you know what that is. If I have to write an email, it better be 6 words or less. Well, I'm kind of joking, but I use it a lot to craft my emails to him and to create business cases that are short and succinct. And then, of course, outlines for courses or analyzing Google Forms, surveys, things like that. And prompt writing as well. I actually ask him to help me write a prompt to come up with courses or lessons or ideas. And then the other tools that I use are for onboarding, for putting together courses. And then we use our LMS from ELB, except we just renamed it Power Up. So everybody calls them Power Up lessons. Again, it's kind of fun. It just connotates something fun for them that they're powering up their skills. So I'd like for you to think about what is one tool you would love to add after watching the chat and listening to me talk. What is one tool you would love to add into your toolbox? What is an example of a micro builder you use, or is that the specific product name? It is part of the LMS. So if you want to build content, you go into the micro builder tool, and there's a box that says, do you want to use AI? And you can say, build me a lesson on, oh, I did it for performance feedback. And then it came up with some ideas on in different sections for performance feedback. And then you can go in and tweak it. You can add pictures, you can add like analogies and things like that. So that's how I use the microbuilder to come up with a lesson on my own. Or most often, I will take content like maybe a sales one sheeter or something that is in our SharePoint, if you want to call it that. For example, something on unified attribution, and that is so hard to explain. And I pull up the PowerPoint and I say, can you use this and create a simplified lesson for explaining unified attribution to somebody who doesn't know what that is? So that's how I use MicroBuilder. I wish I had to add these vendors and resources. However, I don't. Try using AI to come up with a business case that is see how much money and time you could save. The reason how I got my Open Sesame catalog is the leadership catalog they were using was like 30,000 a year, and this one is 15. So I saved them $15,000 right then. All I said is, how can I save you 15,000? This is how I can. Casey said micro builder can be purchased separately. Yes, Eva, I am using the micro builder through e-learning brothers. Let me see, additional open catalog. That has saved me a ton of time because you can put together learning course paths for different soft skills as you're building your learning program. So thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. And again, all the people that are on this webinar appreciate learning from you as well. Not just from me, but you all have a ton of information and a ton of expertise and a ton of ideas too that you can be sharing with each other. We just unfortunately can't use breakout rooms. This is our breakout room. So my number two takeaway for you regarding tools is just think of what tools can be a time saver for you. And if you're having a hard time explaining to your boss why you should purchase a tool, see if you can figure out how much time it would save you and then just multiply it out by your salary, hourly or annually or whatever, and say this is how much it costs and this is how much it would save you from me not doing it or having the time, not taking 5 days to do something, but taking 5 hours to do something. And that's the best way to promote a tool. And then avoid those shiny toys. AI is coming out with all this cool stuff. Now it's got, mobile builders. And I mean, there's just tons of things. Just really think about, do I really need this? Do I want it or do I need it? Which is sometimes hard to do. So I'd like it for you to now think about, we're going to shift over and we're going to talk about building things. So this is where the rubber meets the road, where it is just me building stuff. So I've made my learners comfortable and I figured out how I'm going to make them relevant, make them fun. Now I have all my tools to do this. Now we're going to talk about what Tom Hanks did is building those assets. So what is one thing that you would want to improve in your current learning assets? Like if you had a magic wand. So I'll let you think a minute and then go ahead and put it in the chat. Like, are they more engaging quizzes? Are they more scenario branching quizzes? Are they just more fun things to look at? Is it more content? Is it linking content? So go ahead and put your ideas in chat. Let me see, one new message. Make them more engaging and relevant. Yeah. And I think that goes back to the whole learning culture. Like, what is it that you really want? And if it is engaging and relevant, then you think, how can I do that? You ask Quimby. Well, I don't know if you can ask my Quimby, but you can ask your Quimby and see what you can do. Getting going quicker and building training. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about now. So thank you, Trisha, for that great segue. Um, I was all excited that I had my LMS. I was all excited that I had my tools. I was all excited that I had my learning culture. And one day I came in and I sat down at my computer and I opened my laptop and I said, now I have to build all these things. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start. There's so much to do, and I don't even know what I need to do. And I was overwhelmed again. That whole like just like that plane crash, that whole reality crashed down on me again. I don't know where to start. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna take a baby step. And my first baby step was, well, we have no onboarding, absolutely none. I didn't know what our values were. I didn't know anything about the company. It was all, I had to do it all on my own. I thought, we're going to probably start hiring people. So maybe I can start building an onboarding program. And then I thought, well, that's even overwhelming because I don't even know what's supposed to be in an onboarding program. And then I thought, well, if I was a new hire, what would I want to know about the company on my very first day? I thought values. I know they would want to know about our values. So one of the first thing I did is look for our values and we had them on our website. But the funny story is that we didn't even have them defined. Like we had these words, but they were not defined. So I went around and did a Google survey to see how we could define our values. And then I thought, well, I don't want people just to read a piece of paper. Maybe I can make a fun infographic. And then I thought, yeah, that's okay, but maybe I can use Lumen 5 to make a fun video. And so that's what I did. And then I uploaded it into the ELB LMS, which is called the Rockstar Learning Platform. And you can literally upload a PDF, an infographic, or something, and literally put questions right next to it about whatever it was that they read. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool because they don't have to go to another place. They can just answer the questions right there. And I thought, okay, there's one lesson done. So that was pretty cool. And that gave me a little bit of confidence. I thought, okay, so what's the next thing that I can do? So then I thought, well, I could talk about our expectations. And maybe instead of just answering questions, they could play a game, maybe a scramble game or maybe a trivia game. So I thought, okay, let me learn how to use the game. They were pretty easy. So then I thought, okay, so now I've got this PDF and I've got a game. And really, that is how I built my learning platform. You just have to stop and think, what don't we have right now that if I did something, it's 100% improvement? Like from zero to something is 100%. So that's what I did. I started simple and I just kept thinking about, well, what don't we have? What don't we have? If you don't know, start talking to your managers. I talk to my managers once a month and just listen to them and just listen in meetings and you start getting ideas. I kind of started slow, but then as momentum built, it just seems like, oh, I should do this, or oh, I can add this, or oh, I can do that. And then you start building these lessons. And then I thought, well, okay, I need an onboarding program. So why don't I link all these lessons together? Well, we need leadership because we have so many young leaders. Why don't I start putting lessons together and build a leadership path? And that's how I decided to start building paths. So again, this is how you build. You start easy. I started with a PDF and a quiz, and then I added a PowerPoint and a game, and then I kept adding. And then you add branching scenarios. And by the way, the LMS, the Rockstar platform, has all this in there, or the studio package has all this in there. And then you just start connecting all of these things together. And then you go to your, boss and say, look, I connected these together. Now we have a program. So the takeaway for you is when you're building your assets, and if you are starting from scratch, just start simple. Just take a baby step and do something simple, because just doing something simple will kind of get you out of that overwhelmed analysis paralysis. And then the more you start building, the more you start thinking of things that you want to build. And then use your tools and start, like, maybe every month learn a new tool and say, how can I use this? And then connect that together. And then you just start connecting them into programs. So I'd like to share with you some stats. I'm not going to read these out loud to you because I totally loathe when people read slides to me. So I'm not going to do that to you, but I will give you a moment to look at some of these stats. And I did want to share with you, when I started, we had 80 people at our company. We are now up to 140. And right now we have, let me see, 100 and, well, and this I did 134. We hired since then. So we have about a 99% rate of people using our LMS. And the only reason why we're not at 100 is because it's the founder and the president and the CRO are not going to be doing lessons in our Power Up. So we have about a 99% engagement rate in our LMS. And the biggest thing that I noticed, or that the manager said, is just putting together this onboarding program and having them go into the LMS and do all the stuff that you have to repeat over and over. What are our values? What are our expectations? And having them play games gives them that boost up to have them up and ramped up a lot faster. And then I wanted to share with you all the different programs that I created just by linking all the lessons together that I created. So, one of the things that, again, I'm super proud of is our onboarding program that saves time. Our personal pathways, we just started that, and these are they're personal pathways. If somebody in a department needs particular work on a particular skill or on a set of skills, we're building out personal programs for them and then coaching them alongside that. We just started our A-Edge workshops, so we're doing those. Those are 30 minutes a month where they come in and they do a hands-on session for 30 minutes. Today, we're doing how do you create a Gemini gem. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat box. Oh, Trisha said that's 100% me right now. Okay. Yes. And streamlining training requirements just to make sure they're all 100% necessary. Super, super important. So that is what I have for you today. I would love for you to share an aha, or what did you learn that you didn't know before, or an idea that you had, or somebody shared something in the chat that you're going to take away and do something different tomorrow. Because no lesson is complete unless you have a call to action. And my call to action to you is think about your culture. Think about your tools and think about your assets and what is one different thing that you can do. So go ahead and put in the chat an aha and or an action you're going to take. So I'll give you a minute to think about it. And please don't let me be standing here and see crickets in the chat box. That would be sad. Rethink assets. Thank you. Constance, I would love to create at least one of your programs in my company. Yep. Start small, smart, start with one little tiny micro lesson or one little tiny video and start small and just keep those baby steps. So I hope you have walked away with something, even if you didn't put it in the chat, so that you can go from being overwhelmed to building something that you are super proud of. And you can walk away knowing that you built that thing all by yourself. So thank you. I hope you have a great day. I hope you, again, walk away with something. And now Casey has some information that she is going to share.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Jean. That was an excellent presentation. Thank you to everyone who's joining us as well. And thank you for all your participation and insight sharing in the chat as well. I wanted to share my screen really quickly. We have a cool offer
Yeah,
for you
not
guys
sharing.
to check out the Learning Studio. I'm sorry, let me do a full slide view there for you. You guys are welcome to learn more about the Learning Creation Studio. That's the tool that Jean was speaking about today. So many, it's kind of like a place where you can go where all the apps and tools are all in one place. So we encourage you to do that. We'll have more great, powerful sessions scheduled for you guys tomorrow, the very last day of ELBX online. But thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you really soon.